Hi, Miguel here, and it is time for the fifth and final volume of Orange. I I don't know how to even begin talking about this, to be perfectly honest. Um, so at the time I'm recording this, I have read obviously all 5 volumes of Orange. But the first vlog regarding where I look at volume 1 of Orange actually comes out tomorrow. Because I upload these on a daily basis, but I don't I don't film on a daily basis. Like I read part of Naruto, for instance, and then I vlog, and then I read part of Orange and I vlog, and I read a part of Naruto and then I vlog. So like I can like record 3 vlogs in one day and have like them upload on 3 separate days in the future. Um, yeah, so the first vlog comes up tomorrow, and I realized just now the gravity of these of reviewing Orange, especially at this time, considering recent events, and especially considering the source material, not the source material, sorry, the topic, uh, the themes of depression and suicide, and I only realized that reading the 5th volume, when the tension really begins to amp up. Um, this final volume, we're approaching the day of Kakeru's death in the other world, February 15th. So we left off last volume worrying about the New Year's get together that the friend group was going to have. We were worried that because the other letter said that in the future Naho and the other Kakeru had a big fight that day, when Kakeru got worried about his grandmother, who was in the hospital during the New Year's celebration. And it's understandable, Kakeru's plight, because he had missed. He feels guilty for his mother's suicide, because he chose to spend the day with his friends instead of spending it with his mother. So it would make sense for him to also feel guilty about spending the day with his friends instead of spending it with his grandmother in the hospital. It makes sense that he would feel guilty about that. So he opens up to Naho about it, and Naho says, like, put it aside for one day and have a little fun with us. Of course, this gets Kakeru very, very much upset, because, like, how can you understand what I'm going through? Last time I hung out with you, last time I put aside all my worries, it came back to bite me in the butt. My mom died. Who's to say that it's the same thing's not going to happen again? How could you ever understand this? And as a result, he tells Naho not to talk to him again, and to stay away from him from that point forward. That was in the alternate timeline, where Kakeru did, in fact, commit suicide. As a result, Naho lives on without ever telling Kakeru, without ever, apologizing to Kakeru for what she said and making him feel bad and all these other things. She never got the chance to reconcile with him, as it were, before he died. So this is one big regret that future Naho has, that she doesn't want present Naho to have. Now, Naho, in the present, tries ever so much to rectify this. But like I said in previous videos, like, the future has changed so much. Not only that, but also I was wondering if there was anything that you just couldn't change. Like, if there's something that no matter what you try to do, no matter how you try to change the future, it's just going to stay that way. It's just how it is. And this was one of those cases. Naho actually tried to get Kakeru to talk about it. She actually tried to get Kakeru to, to open up about her. But instead, Kakeru lashes out, exactly as he did in the alternate timeline. And the same thing happens, in which he ends up saying, how could you understand? Like, don't talk to me again. I don't, like, just stay away from me. And it's heartbreaking to see that happen, because you realize you realize Kakeru's current mental state, it's not his friends doing. His friends have they don't have as much control over Kakeru's mental state as they think they do, despite the things that are said in the letters, despite the instructions that they have, despite knowing what's about to happen before it happens. And you know, it's heartbreaking to see Kakeru like this. Naho does see in the letter, like, even if things go downhill, I want you to apologize to him. I want you to make it up to him, because otherwise you're going to regret it. If he dies, then you're going to live knowing that you never reconciled with Kakeru, and that's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. Naho understands this, and I really love I really love Naho's progression throughout this story. She actually asks Kakeru to go out with her, and like, even though she's afraid of hurting him, even though he's afraid of hurting her, like, she still asks to go out with him. And you know, it's so touching. It's so touching seeing Naho finally overcome that fear of anyone getting hurt by this situation, especially considering how she was unable to do certain things in the previous volumes because it was just so hard. You know, it's different regretting something and knowing you're going to regret something but still not doing it. Right? So it's a great character moment for Naho, in my opinion. And Kakeru says yes. We do see, actually, this is great. We see a little bit of we see a little bit of the Kakeru from the other timeline, the one who did commit suicide. We see how his mental state deteriorated, how his attitude towards life continued to regress from the moment of his mother's death. We see that she had actually sent him one last text before she passed away, and it was apologizing for everything that she had done, understanding that he had his own life, that she didn't want to be so controlling, and that she wanted him to have a good time with his friends, which is actually part of why Kakeru was driven over the edge. We see so much. We see how things could have gone differently for Naho. How things did go differently for future Naho, the one who has all these regrets, because Kakeru didn't have as much. Didn't have as many memories with his friends. In fact, his friends were part of the reason that he ended up committing suicide anyway, because they weren't there for him enough to make him feel valued in life. He doesn't have any memories with these friends that could potentially make him wish he could have more memories with them, and that's part of the reason he got driven over the edge. We do also see what would have happened if he had gone to meet with his friends in Tokyo. He actually he openly admits, well, his friends say, like, Kakeru was bullied a lot in Tokyo, and they apologize to him for that. But when Kakeru actually opens up and says, like, I'm actually thinking of killing myself, they just laugh at him. They're like, oh, you're such a joke, Kakeru. And it really goes to show how much these Tokyo friends are still really superficial about their relationship with Kakeru. It's really disgusting how they actually laugh at the issue that is at hand, that, you know, Kakeru actually is actually thinking about this sort of thing, and his friends are just laughing it off. It's really disgusting, and, like, I'm adding those people to the along with Ueda to the list of people I really hate in this books, in Orange anyway, and I suppose that's for a good reason. So all of these things build up until Kakeru finds that one text from his mother on the day that she passed away, and that's part of what drives him over the edge. It's part of, and we do see a little bit of, like, reasoning. Like, we hear all the time, especially people, when you speak to someone who is suicidal, you try and talk them out of it by telling them that life has value, that people will mourn them, and, you know, all these things. And we do see Kakeru thinking through those different reasons to want to keep living, and reasoning his way out of them. Like, how will I know if I don't do it? Or how will I know, like, people will mourn me if I don't, if I don't just do it. Um, Clearly, my life doesn't have value because such and such and such and such. It's heartbreaking to see the way Kakeru regressed in this other timeline, and the way that Kakeru could regress in this timeline if Naho and the others aren't careful. So, and we do end the chapter seeing the very moment where he rides his bicycle out in front of the truck, and that was it for him. And it's heartbreaking. It really, it tears you apart seeing how this did end, how this ended in an alternate timeline, and how this led to all these regrets and everything that happens up to this point. So Naho knows that she's going to have chocolates. In the alternate timeline, the future Naho had chocolates that she was going to give to Kakeru, but she couldn't do it. And when Kakeru asked her who the chocolates were for, future Naho couldn't tell him. So Kakeru got extremely disappointed and extremely depressed, thus contributing to the deterioration of his mental health. Here, in this timeline, Naho actually, we again see the moment where Naho is unable to do something that she knows she's going to regret, because she's unable to give the chocolates to Kakeru despite knowing where it leads. But she immediately overcomes it, and this is the character moment where I was talking about, where she finally asks Kakeru to go out with her. So she actually she messes up the chocolates on the way there. She runs into Ueda. Last time we ever see her, I hope. Although I will say, I'm very curious to see how the Ueda in the other timeline reacted to the news of Kakeru's suicide, or how his friends in the alternate timeline reacted to the news that he actually did do it. I'm very curious to see how they reacted, if they felt any blame, if they felt any guilt weighing upon them. I'm very curious. I might be might be an interesting spin-off story. And I love seeing the characters whom I previously hated turn into characters I previously love. Not previously, but I really love because of good character development. So might be interesting for a spin-off. But beside the point, despite the fact that the chocolates get very messed up on the way, Naho finally goes to Kakeru and asks him out, and it's touching. It's a really touching moment, mirroring the moment where Kakeru is asked out by Ueda. He turns to his friends and he does a little "I'm in a relationship now" sign, and everyone is so happy. But when they schedule a get-together on February 15th, the day that Kakeru is supposedly going to take his own life, and they schedule that get-together so that they can keep Kakeru from committing suicide, that they can maybe help him realize his own value as a human. But Kakeru doesn't show, and this really gets your heart pumping, because this is the moment of truth. This is the moment where you think, maybe all our efforts were in vain, right? Did he really do it? Is he going to do it? Has all this been for naught? This is the moment, your heart is pounding at this moment as they go and look for Kakeru, at his house. They actually go to the corner where he's supposedly going to do it, and they actually see him. A bit of comic relief here. Hagita actually suggests completely wrecking Kakeru's bike so that he's unable to ride his bike in front of the truck or something. And he actually does it after it's revealed that he actually does it, which is why Kakeru's not on his bike in this scene. So Kakeru almost does it, but it's his memories of his friends and the realization that he'll never get to see them again if he does this that keeps him from doing that. And that in the end was the difference between the Kakeru of this timeline and the Kakeru of the alternate timeline. The fact that he had the memories of his friends that he could rely on, and knowing that he'd never be able to have those memories ever again if he did this, that kept him alive in this scene. It's really powerful, and I'm so glad. It's such a satisfying conclusion to the story. And Naho expresses her emotions at the end of it all by saying, hopefully we'll all be this happy again 10 years in the future. and it's a really touching ending, and it gives me a lot of hope. We did see that things fell apart between the friends after Kakeru's death in the alternate timeline, so it leaves us hopeful that maybe the ordeal trying to keep Kakeru from committing suicide may have actually brought the friends together in doing this. Additionally, like, it turns out that the future timeline friends actually sent letters to Kakeru into the past, alongside the letters to their past selves. So Kakeru gets to experience experience what life would have been without him, how life would have been different without him, how, his suicide would have impacted all these people, straight from the people who were impacted by his suicide. It's powerful, and it's a great revelation that I really like how this manga kept secrets from us. Like, normally when a manga keeps secrets from us, sometimes it feels like a complete cop-out, like, oh, come on, like, where did that come from? It's like Deus Ex Machina. The writer ran out of ideas, so they just inserted something that was previously not there and just said, oh, I was keeping it from you all this time. But here it feels justified. Here it's like, I'm slowly revealing to you that each person actually had a letter from their future selves. And here we learn they also had a letter to Kakeru from their future selves, which is, I don't know, I feel like it's such a great revelation to have. It's such a great thing to have going for them. So yeah, it's a great conclusion to their timeline. By the way, the one gripe I do have with this volume is the explanation regarding time travel. So the friends I've been scratching my head over how exactly this would have happened. Starting from like volume 2, where they actually discussed the possibility of time travel. Like, they say, like, time travel to the future is possible. Like, we're already doing it. We're doing it on a day-to-day basis. That would be easy. But time travel to the past is a lot harder. It's possible that you could create a black hole, which would possibly create a rift in space-time that is linked to the past, something other, alternate universes. I covered this in my other video. But they actually say, like, oh, maybe there's a black hole in the Bermuda Triangle, or some, like, irregularity in the Bermuda Triangle where we can somehow send our letters to the past. It's not well explained at all, and it leaves me wanting more. It leaves me saying, oh, that's such a bad way to explain how the letters from the future came to the past. In my opinion, if you ask me, I would have left it a mystery. I would have, like, completely just left it a mystery, left it up to the reader to guess, like, how that ended up there. That's something that I would do. Like, maybe it's not even actually from the, well, that would actually erase a lot of parts that were really good in this story. But, like, just leave it a mystery. Leave it a mystery as to how those letters actually made it into the friends' hands, instead of, like, explaining it all away with Bermuda Triangle, black holes, something or other, Just leave it a mystery as to how the future selves got it to their past selves. We do see how the future selves realize, like, even if we do send this back to the past, it doesn't change the fact that our Kakeru is gone. But at the very least, we can save the Kakeru of an alternate universe, right? So, it's a touching ending. I don't really buy the time travel explanation, Bermuda Triangle, black hole stuff, but you know what? It's a minor thing in just a sea of goodness. That is how Orange ends, and what do I think of this series as a whole? It's a beautiful, beautiful tale, and I think it's very important to address, especially in today's society, where reports of suicide are common. We had Robin Williams, we had Etika, all these people. It's showing that fame isn't everything, money isn't everything. You can still have mental health alongside that. You can still be impacted by the way the world closes in on you. It's very relevant, is what I'm trying to say. I love the characters. A couple of them take a little bit of getting used to. Azu and Takako and Hagita in particular you need to take a moment to get used to their personalities before you realize exactly how their personalities contribute to saving Kakeru. You really like Kakeru. You feel for his plight. You feel bad for him. You really want to save him. The pacing is fantastic. The revelation, the day-by-day revelation of what's going to happen that day, how it's going to happen, and what it's going to impact, and what they want you to change. I'm glad that they reveal it very slowly, very gradually, instead of revealing it all in one go, so that we know exactly what's supposed to happen, what we can expect, and maybe even think about how the circumstances in this timeline differ from the circumstances in the other timeline that might mess this up a whole lot. So I like that concept. I really love the concept. I love the pacing. I love the slow revelation of the secrets that are included in the letters, how the future selves, what they did to make sure that the past selves could save Kakeru. Right? Naho is a fantastic character. I love her dynamic with the other friends. I love her dynamic with Kakeru. And I just, she's just great. She's just so well written. And you really feel for her worries, like, will we be able to save Kakeru? The tension, the build-up is so perfect. It's so great, just like, especially in this last volume where your heart is pounding, you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know, maybe we changed the future too much, maybe we changed the future in the wrong way. The tension building up to that climactic final scene at that street corner it's just so perfect. I like the implementation of the identities from the future timeline. I like how it shows how things could have gone, how things did go. I keep making that mistake. How things did go when Kakeru commits suicide. And how it changed their lives, how they live with so many regrets. It's interesting to see how they live now versus how they live in the past, so that we can have some idea of what the stakes are, what is on the line here. Not only is Kakeru's life on the line, but these people's futures are on the line as well. Their entire livelihoods. That's going to happen in the 10 years that are to come. It's great. I do think that they reveal a little too much about what goes on. Like, I get it. Like, you have to reveal that Suwa and Naho are married and they have a kid they named Kakeru in order to honor their fallen friend. Azu, Takako, and Hagita tend to argue all the time. They're not as close as they used to be, therefore not respecting Kakeru's last wishes. So it's, they reveal all this stuff, but at the same time, you can't help but feel like, well, is this really that bad? Like, I understand, like, Kakeru's death impacted you severely and that you live with a lot of regrets, but it feels somewhat like, it doesn't feel entirely, it feels weird that they would still have all these regrets after 10 years, that they would actually tell their past selves to do things differently, to drastically change the way they live. It feels strange to me, honestly. But beside the point, it's still pretty good. It's still really good. I like that. Of course, there are the characters that, you really, really dislike, but I think that was intentional. I think you're meant to dislike them. Ueda is, she creates conflict, she creates drama, she creates an obstacle for Naho to overcome. Kakeru's friends from Tokyo, they create a different situation that could have happened, another obstacle for Naho and company to overcome. And it's really great how they're implemented. I still don't like seeing them at all. I kind of wish they would just, like, completely regret their actions. I do want to see how they react, maybe in a side story, maybe in a spin-off or something. But, for the amount of time that they spent in this manga, I'm glad they were there. I didn't like them, but they did add a lot of important elements to the story. And I'm glad that they were only in the manga for the time period that they were. Because if Ueda continually kept coming back every chapter, I don't think I would have been able to take her. I would have been very, very upset with Ueda. But she was only in a couple of chapters, so that makes it a lot more bearable, in my opinion. And I'm glad for that. The focus was very much on saving Kakeru, on her friends, on the obstacles that they have to overcome based on the mistakes that their future selves made. So Ueda being an antagonist wasn't that prevalent, and I'm glad because I don't like Ueda. She's one of those villains, or not a villain, but like antagonists. She's one of those antagonists that I just don't want to see that much of in any story. Unlike villains like Maleficent or, Captain Hook, while they're evil and they do horrible things, at least they're fun to watch. Ueda was not fun to watch. So I'm glad that she was only in it for the amount of time that she was. And of course, the topics that it deals with: depression, mental health, suicide, all these very important topics that are relevant to today's society. It's really it's a warning, it's a message going out to everyone in the world, saying, like, if you have someone you love, check on them, tell them that you love them, tell them that you appreciate them, and try to make their day as happy as possible. And be kind to everyone you meet. You never know when they're going through something. You never know when they're thinking of ending it. You never know what they're going through. Even the people who are close to you, sometimes you never know what they're going through until it's too late. Naho and her friends didn't know that Kakeru was going through so much before he ended it all for himself. Right? So, you never know. So, tell the ones you love that you love them. Tell them, spend time with them. Tell them that they have value. Be kind to everyone you meet. Make sure that you're not part of the reason that they're driven over the edge. Make sure they don't get driven over the edge, because you never know. You never know what someone's going through until it's too late. So I love this manga. I'm really glad I read it. It's such a beautiful slice of life story. It's such a great message about mental health. And that said, after reading this last volume, it kind of hit me just how serious this manga really was. So, before I upload the next vlog tomorrow, I'm going to film a short intro, a short prelude to let people know, like, this is going to deal with some very serious matters, and tell them what to do if you or someone is going through these sorts of things. So yeah. This was a good volume. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. I don't know why you would read it now that I've kind of given my reactions to it. Also, I feel that it's necessary for me to say this after dealing with this topic so much in these vlogs. If you know someone who is going through depression or is suffering with mental health issues or suicidal thoughts, please reach out to them. Let them know that they're not alone. Let them know that you are there for them, that you are willing to help them, that you are willing to listen to them. Encourage them to talk to you. Please don't be afraid to reach out and tell them that you're there to help. You never know when just a smile or just an "I love you" can completely change someone's life and even save someone's life. You never know. And you also never know when they're going to end it all. You never know exactly what they're going through. And if you are experiencing depression, issues with mental health, or suicidal thoughts, please don't be afraid to reach out. Please don't be afraid to ask for help from a friend, a family member. There are so many resources out there ready to give you an ear if you need it. And so many ways to find happiness again in your life. I know, again, this doesn't seem like much coming from me. I'm a guy on the internet, but believe me, I've been there. I've been through that before. I've been in your situation. So, please don't be afraid to ask for help. You're not alone in this, and I promise you, there are happier days coming ahead, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. So please ask for help. Talk to a friend, talk to a family member, talk to a loved one. I've been leaving resources for mental health, and Suicidal Thoughts in the description. So check those out if you haven't already, if you really need them. And yeah, take care of yourselves. You know, the world is looking out for you, even if it doesn't seem like it right now. So yeah, thanks for joining me on this crazy, crazy journey. So what's next for this channel? I do want to keep this the schedule regarding my 2 concurrent, like, ongoing series that, you know, of stuff I haven't read before, stuff I haven't watched before. So after this, I think I'm going to do one very brief, one brief episode on the other manga short story included in this volume. So Haruhiro Astronaut, I think I'm pronouncing that right. That's going to be the next episode after the Naruto video that's going to be published tomorrow. So I'm going to read that next, and it's going to be just 1 episode. Then I'm going to have maybe just a little, you know, I'm planning on making just a small, you know, tribute to Orange now that I've finished it. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be beautiful, I promise you. And even if you don't like it, well, you know, thanks at the very least for giving it a shot. So that said, I am continuing my Naruto series that will be uploaded tomorrow. We are currently on volume 23, and things are looking quite grim for Sasuke right now. Also, if you haven't already, check out my Pokemon Adventures Revisited series. Currently, we're on Volume 2. We're getting ready to meet the 3rd protagonist, Green. And the Pokemon Adventures Revisited, the Revisited series is basically me revisiting certain things that I read in my childhood or experienced in my childhood and viewing them from the perspective of an adult, seeing how they hold up over the years, seeing how they hold up in today's society, or you know, seeing how they hold up for me as an adult. So definitely check that out if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for joining.